Alright, Nick, hopefully you can hear this. I have made a training room with these ships, a couple of battleships, a couple of cruisers, and a couple of destroyers. And I'm going to let them sail around. They can't shoot at me. And I'm going to shoot back at them. I have a Tier 6 Russian battleship, the Ismail. Ismail? I don't know. And I'll probably lose this eventually because they're probably going to just cap all these caps. But the point that I'm trying to make for you here is to show you how to aim. Because depending on the ship you're shooting, your aiming will be different. So you can see when I zoom in, I have these ticks. And as I understand it, for this particular, I can't remember what they call this. What do they call this? They call it the crosshair, I want to say is the crosshair. So for this crosshair, you can see where, like, if I'm aiming right now, it's going to take my shells 10 seconds to travel to this area. So if I were following a ship, I would be trying to aim, I think, for this 10 number. And this is sort of assuming that the ship is going around 20 kilometers. Now, if the ship is going 30 kilometers, I'll aim in front of it. Destroyers are going to be going anywhere between probably 35 and 45. So you're going to need to aim significantly ahead of destroyers. Another thing I want to show you is where to aim. Because depending on the angle of the ship, if the ship is directly perpendicular to you, that's broadside. So you can see here, I'm aiming now right at B. So if a ship is aiming directly perpendicular to me, they are broadsiding to me. That means that they're presenting me a flat surface to where my shells will penetrate, the most surface area of the ship. We can go back and look at armor as well later, but typically there are mathematical values for the penetration. So, okay, here we go. Alright, so this ship is basically coming more or less right at me. So I'm going to aim about here. And you can use that little circle on the map to see kind of where you're aiming. And I'm going to try to... Oh, of course I had HE selected. That was a mistake. So let's see what I get here. Okay, so he's turning. Of course I missed the first shot. A pretty terrible tutorial. Maybe I should have picked a different ship that doesn't have a 30-second reload. I may not show you this. But all these guys are now presenting this beautiful flat broadside to me, and I should be able to more or less delete them. So this guy's going, I know he's probably going about 30, so I'm going to aim about right here for him. You can see I aimed right along his broadside, and we'll see if I do any good shots. Okay, so I did 3 citadels to him. I did 36,000 damage. That's exactly what I want to do. I'm just going to ignore this Akatsuki because he's rushing me right now. I don't know what is his plan. He can't hurt me, though. Alright, so now we'll focus on this guy as well. He is also presenting a flat broadside, so I'm going to aim more than 5 ahead of him. I'm going to aim right about here. I'm going to try to make sure our shells don't go through him too much. There we go. 2 citadels, he's gone. Okay. So this guy is... let's focus on these battleships. So when I've watched you play, I've seen you aim a little bit too high or too low. Sometimes you're aiming up here, sometimes you're aiming down here. Now again, these guys are going directly horizontal to me, so this is about the perfect scenario. But, so 2 seconds would normally mean that I would aim, about here. But, because this guy's going more than 20, I'm going to aim about right here. And we should... There we go, 45,000 damage. Again, this is basically just the perfect scenario. But when of course you're very close. Let's aim for this Cleveland because I know that we're only 10 away from him. so the Cleveland is, these shells are going to take 5 seconds to hit, 5 seconds to travel there. He doesn't look like he's going full speed, so I'm going to aim about right here. And we should, of course, knock him out pretty easily. Alright, so let me see if I can't... So the destroyer's rushing me. You said this has happened to you before. I probably can't get rid of him in one shot, but we'll see. Okay, I guess I can. Alright, I'm going to go head on against these ships and then we'll see what happens. So they should be able to bounce some of my shells because they're angled against me. But I have 406mm guns, so I might be able to punch through their armor. So for this guy, I'm going to aim about right here. Let's see what I do to him. Alright, not bad. 23,000 damage. Okay, now that I'm getting up parallel to these guys, they're going straight, I'm going to get parallel to them, so I'll be able to have this nice broadside shot. I can probably eliminate this scores in one shot here, so I'm going to aim about here for him, right at the water line. Okay, over pens. That means my shells just had too much penetration, they just went right through him. That's going to happen. Just going to happen. This detection right here, this triangle, means that I'm proximity detected. That means that because I'm within 2 kilometers, it doesn't really matter what I think I should be detected by, I'm going to be detected. So sometimes if you're super close, you can just zoom out a little bit, and that'll make it easier to angle. Alright, so now that these guys are going away from me, I'm going to angle a little bit above them because I want this shell to kind of go down and onto the ship. Alright, let's focus on this guy here. You'll notice, even though this is a bot game and I've got 4 kills, they're still winning now because they have 3 caps. 3 caps earns those points quickly. I mean, they're getting like 10 points per 5 seconds or 12 points per 5 seconds, something like that. So this guy's a good example here. He's not moving, but he's angled to me. You can see that angle. So I'm going to shoot his superstructure, because if I shot his belt, it would probably bounce. Okay, so there you can see I had 5 ricochets, because the angle that hit, it bounced off of it. I should probably do a tutorial where the ships aren't moving at all, so I can get in the perfect angle. So I'm coming up onto this Gneisenau here, and he's starting to present almost a flat broadside to me. Now the Gneisenau has what's called a turtleback citadel, which looks like kind of like this, which means that it should be in theory harder to citadel him. Let's aim right at the waterline. We'll see what I can do. Okay, so you can see 7 pens, which is great, and I did a lot of damage, but I didn't citadel him because of his unique armor scheme. So let's see what I can do to the Sinop. I bet you I can delete him easily from here. I mean, it's really no question. He'll be gone. But I'm not aiming up here. I'm not aiming down here. And if you use this circle over here to see where you're aiming, you can see I'm aiming right on him. I want to aim right at the water line. Gone. This is the same tier 6 ship as anybody else would have. Totally stock. So now that I am pretty close to this Gneisenau, I'm going to stop and see if I can't totally delete him in one shot here. And again, I'm aiming right for the waterline because the Citadel only is going to pop up it's like right here. I'll go back and show you in the menu, but it's going to be like right there. Okay, 10,000. Again, the Gneisenau has really good armor. It's hard to get a Citadel on him. But that is where you should aim when you're trying to shoot for the Citadel, which is what you're trying to do in a battleship with armor penetration, armor penetrating shells. I'm going to shoot one on him right there. It should be okay. Another one. Okay, good. Now let's see if I can't do the scores here. All right. So anyway, let me get back to port here. I just want to show you the armor schemas. You may not have ever looked at this, but this will sort of be helpful in you understanding how the game mechanics work. So the ship that I'm in, this is the Ismail, and the ship that I'm in, go over here to survivability and modules maybe? Port, armor layout, okay. So, armor layout, and this shows you kind of the range here in the colors from the very thinnest armor all the way to the very thickest armor, and they're kind of highlighted. So you can see here the thinnest armor up here is the superstructure, that the smokestacks and the places where the bridge is and that kind of stuff. That stuff is very, very thinly armored, and that means that shells are either going to penetrate it if they're high explosive, or they're probably going to go right through it if they're armor piercing. What you can also do is you can pick different parts of the ship to focus on. So let's see here. I'm going to hide everything, and then we're going to pick believe that's the Citadel. Okay. So if you're looking at this ship here, now you can see sort of underneath it. This is the Citadel torpedo bulkhead. It's 32 millimeters. Then this one up here is 50 millimeters, and then on top of it is 20 millimeters. From the front, 32, 75, 40. So you can think about shells that are coming in like this. They're landing, if we look at this, they're going to be landing right around here. And you want them to go into this, because this is the Citadel, and you want this to be hit. This will give you the most damage. They can also, depending on how far away, if they're really far away, they'll come like this and go plop right down on top of it. Now, if you're looking at this from the front, you have to penetrate a lot of armor. Let's look at it from the side. A lot of armor to hit the front, but you can do it depending on what shells you have. So let's look at this front part here. Is 26 millimeters. So I'll have to look up the math to quote it, but I want to say it's like 1/6 of your caliber you can pen, right? So like, there's some math. I'll link you to some better videos, but the point is that the bigger guns can overmatch this armor right here. Even though typically it should bounce because it's on an angle, certain calibers at certain sizes of guns will just punch through it and then right into your Citadel. So those are, good things to know. Let's see what's on here. this is the torpedo protection, so that's good to know. That's where torpedoes coming in, they're going to hit that there. That's the superstructure. That is the deck. So this is like shells landing, I believe, on your ship from, you know, high explosive and whatnot. They're going to be able to penetrate you in a lot of places here, 26 millimeters. So a lot of ships can penetrate 26 millimeters. This is a little harder right here, 36. And then we're back to part of the Citadel. So, and then here you have your guns are pretty good, 300 millimeters, right? So let's look at a different ship and look at let's look at this deck, right? So 26 millimeters. That means that this is a tier 6 ship. So let me switch over to a tier 6 ship. Nope, that's 4. Here we go. All right, so a tier 6 ship, the Devonshire. This is a British heavy cruiser, I think. And I don't care about the armor layout, but what I want to show you is the artillery, and if I hover over this main battery, you can see that I, with my high explosive shells, can penetrate 34 millimeters of armor. It's kind of right in the middle there. Which means that if I am firing high explosive shells at the Ismail for all of its deck right here, my shells will penetrate and do their full penetration damage on this as well. Now this isn't talking about fire chance, it's just talking about getting penetration versus ricochet. So, you know, every relationship between every ship is slightly different, right? If you go through and look at these ships, we were playing the Perth earlier. The Perth has, well, let's look at a different ship here. Let's look at the Nuremberg. So the Nuremberg, which I've been playing, has 38 millimeters. That's also a bad example. All right, let's look at the Aoba. No, let's look at the Pensacola. This is a U.S. ship. I have an 8-point captain. It's not that great. He has 203 millimeter guns. He has 34 millimeters of penetration. Let's pick the London. London also has 203 millimeter guns. He has 34 millimeters of penetration. The Aoba has 200. All right, I gotta pick a different ship. Let's pick the Farragut. This is a destroyer. He has 127 millimeter guns. He has 21 millimeters of penetration. So if the Farragut is shooting at the Ismail, he will not be able to penetrate the deck, which is, you know, a pretty significant amount of the ship, with any shells at all. They'll just bounce off, basically. They could start a fire, but they won't get damage from penetrations. When we're talking about high explosive here, for the most part. Now, there is a captain skill called Inertia Fuse for HE shells, and it will give you a 25% buff on HE shells fired from your main and secondary battery guns. So I have that on a few ships, and what that does is it helps me to actually get penetrations. So here is, I believe I have it on this one, and this lets me pen up to 31. Now there's some other stuff to know. German ships have a 1/4 penetration formula instead of a 1/6, I believe, which is why the Nuremberg can pen, even though it has 150 millimeter guns, it can pen 38 millimeters of armor. So some ships are different, and you might be like, how am I supposed to know all this? There are wikis, you know, there's various guides and stuff like that, but this tutorial is rambling, so I'm going to stop it now.